you can't have failed to have noted a couple of news stories that came out of Hulk Hogan's latest interview. Now, I know, like, along with Vince McMahon and Ric Flair, he's one of our favourite subjects to discuss. And Hulk Hogan never fails to deliver as far as just coming out with just a stream of crap. So it's great fodder for the podcast. Anyway, Hulk Hogan was a guest on Logan Paul's Impaulsive podcast, and instead of the usual promoting pump and dump crypto cons, Logan Paul had Hulk Hogan on to make some fairly baffling statements, and we're going to go through some of these. Now, before we get to Hulk Hogan's, I want to let you know something that Logan Paul basically admitted, is that the first one is that he admitted on air that he had absolutely no idea what shoot meant in a pro wrestling contest. So Hulk Hogan says, I mean it as a shoot, da-da-da-da-da. And Logan Paul was like, huh? What?
Yeah, he didn't know what that meant. That's as old as the hills. And he didn't know that. I don't know why he wouldn't know that. And just sometimes the wrestlers, their vernacular or their language goes over into the general public. You know, they know kayfabe now. And I've seen them say, hey, kayfabe that. I keep it quiet. But I would think that would have made it over into the to the general population, that they would know what shoot means. So
I think like heat.
And now you might have somebody out there listening saying shoot. What does shoot mean? Shoot's a amateur wrestling term. When you go for the pin, shoot for the pin. So that's where it comes from. And and when somebody is shooting with you, they're telling you the truth. So, and no more bullshit. I'm shooting with you. This is the truth. So, but he didn't know what that meant. So did Hulk say that in the interview?
Yeah. So Hulk is, you don't know what shoot means, and then he actually turns around to one of the other cameras. He's looking that way and goes. He actually does a double take. It's like, you are in the wrestling business and you don't even know the first thing about the vernacular. I mean, I thought even as a fan. Yeah. I mean, every fan that watches a podcast like this will know what shoot means, but he doesn't.
Yeah.
Which I find incredible.
Well, nobody told it to him. See, he didn't come up through the wrestling business. He came up through social media.
Yeah, but neither did I. Neither did anyone watching this for the most part, I'm sure. We all know what it means. We all know some of the basic. We've all read a wrestling book. I'm just stunned that he's just never heard of this, yet takes to the business so well.
Well, I will agree with you there. Yeah, by him missing that term, that's hard to believe. It really is.
So the next thing is Hogan blowing, I mean, a length of hose, blowing smoke up old Logan Paul's bot, let me tell you. He thinks that old Logan Paul should be WWE champion.
Watching you, my brother, you have an opportunity to be the next big attraction in this business simply because you got your together. I've never seen anybody get this as quick as you have. I've never seen anybody, since I've been a wrestling fan, since I was in the business 4 years, I've never seen anybody pick up on it as quick as you have. And your stuff looks believable. There's no holes in your work, so just don't get hurt. You should not be any type of champion except the world's champion at this point. You need to make that quick transition, and if they're smart and Triple H is smart, that transition needs to be made this year. You know, watching what you're doing, you have a certain air about you that you're a really good heel naturally, and what is so cool, you're going to make one of the best baby faces ever when they turn you. Because the more heat you get and the more that hate you, you're going to be an awesome baby face. For instance, Bloodline now, they're starting to cheer for Roman.
Yeah.
Just quick thought off the top of my head. Roman comes back, Bloodline grounds the shit out of him, beats him like a dog, and he hits the ring to save Roman. It would get him over, bam, instantly.
Here's the only
instantly babyface. It'll be Hulk Hogan babyface personified.
Okay, there's two things there. One, will Logan Paul be the world's biggest babyface one day? And two, is Logan Paul WWE Championship material?
Well, let me go over what Hulk said. He has done some moves. I mean, high-risk moves, which means to me that he's willing to do it for the sake of him adapting to the role of a wrestler. And what move did he do? He did off the top of the turnbuckle onto the table. But he can do that stuff because I think in his social media he did stuff like that anyway. He's a great athlete.
I think he had like a diving board and stuff like that, so he'll be used to doing backflips and that kind of stuff into a pool.
Well, and he did learn it. I will agree with Hulk on this. I hate to say this, but I think normally it takes about 5 years to learn all the stuff that Logan Paul has learned. But I think that he has had some of the best trainers that they can supply him with. I don't know if he paid the trainers or WWE made the trainers available to him, but he has really, in his ring work, he has really, I mean, if I had saw him, I said, how long has this guy been working? Somebody says, how long? About 2 years or 3 years? Or how long has he been?
Oh, me? Yeah, a couple of years. Let's just say a couple of years. But he's had 10 matches?
But he has good timing too. And he's been in there with the best. So, and he has made a rapid rise in his talent. It amazes me the things that he can do already. So how many matches has he had?
I was slightly undercutting him. His first match was WrestleMania 38, so that was April of 2022.
So they put him in the ring without any trial matches in front of people?
No, that was his first one, WrestleMania 38. So, 2022 April was his first one. He's had 15 matches in total.
Wow.
Okay, here's the thing, though. I don't want to sound like Ronda Rousey, but she has a point. As big a whinge bag as old Ronda is, just complaining about everything WWE and saying me. But the thing is, she's right in the sense that, hey, if I had 6 weeks to practice my match before every match, then I'd have great matches every time as well. And she does have a point there. Logan Paul has got every single advantage bestowed upon him. He's a great athlete and he's clearly got a knack for the business. But if you've got 6 weeks per match, let's say, to work it out, then it'd be tough to not have a really good match.
Well, Ronda Rousey has a point, but she doesn't have a point. Leading up to a WrestleMania match, she's had all these matches in front of people on the road. Yes or no?
Yeah. She was fairly full-time during the 2 years she was with WWE.
But she's still... Big difference between Logan Paul and Ronda Rousey.
Oh, yeah, Ronda got worse.
Hey, I didn't say that. But she got more boring. You see her going to the ring, she's an interesting figure. I will say that. But she's not a good talker. She doesn't have any of the showmanship that Logan Paul has. If she's a heel, you truly dislike her. She's not funny cute. She just turn the TV off cute. So, but Logan Paul, he's fun to watch, even as a heel, and good looking guy. But big difference between Logan Paul, and I don't care if you can give her 2 months to practice a match. She doesn't know until she gets out there in front of people. Now, I'm saying, when she had all these matches in front of a live crowd, when she came back to the dressing room, who was she talking to? Talking to the agent or talking to somebody else? Or did she have a trainer on the road? I don't know. And so what did Logan Paul do? Logan Paul went to the center, I guess, right or no?
Mm-hmm. Yeah. No, he would be practicing for weeks beforehand for matches, yeah, so... It's not like he's not putting in the time.
Well, she's put in the time too. But you got to tell me, who would you rather see have a match, Logan Paul or Ronda Rousey?
Do you know? Because I really am a big Ronda Rousey fan as far as her beginning in WWE, and then I've got a feeling that too many people got in her ear about what she should be doing It's almost like it's almost like the Ken Shamrock thing. I'll give you an example. Is the more Ken Shamrock wrestled in the WWF, and yes, he had pro wrestling experience in the late 80s, early 90s, but he ended up going into shoot fighting, that word that Logan Paul doesn't know. And then when he got to WWF, originally he was a shoot fighter in a pro wrestling context, and the longer he was there, then he starts busting out the hurricanranas and the Irish whips, and then he just becomes like everybody else. And I think that was Ronda Rousey's issue doubly, except for the fact that she was never actually good at the pro wrestling side of it. If she'd always kept towards a shoot style of wrestling, and she wrestled different to everybody else, that'd be great. But then she starts getting amalgamated and homogenized, a couple of words I'm sure you'll like, and then she just sort of exposed herself as not that good of a worker when it was all said and done. So she was diminished returns ultimately.
Okay, if she went into the ring in a pro wrestling match and did the shoot style, you know who doesn't know how to do the shoot style? The WWE talent. So you're handicapping yourself either way.
But guess what? Do shoot style and do it super quick. Ultimate Warrior style or Ronda Rousey style when she was in UFC. I mean, the shorter the bouts went in UFC, the more people tuned in the next time. It can be Goldberg. Do the Goldberg thing. Just have a 2-minute match, 1-minute match, 30-second match. Just let her kill people and move on. That would have been the best thing for her. But
you forgot her match with Holly Holm.
Yeah, but
that she just took the layoff, boom, and she was gone.
Look,
2 matches in a row, she got knocked out.
Yeah, but if they can accept CM Punk returning, the worst UFC fighter of all time in the modern era, then they can forgive Ronda Rousey because she was, the champion of the world for years in her weight class. So, if they forgive CM Punk and just brush over that, they can brush over a couple of losses for Ronda Rousey.
Well, I think there's a big difference between Ronda Rousey and
Mr. Paul.
Logan Paul.
Yeah. Well, just before we get off Logan Paul.
You can't do any bullshit with Ronda Rousey because it makes her look, I think she thinks it makes her look carny and it's totally off center for her and she's not comfortable doing it. Logan Paul loves it. And you can tell he loves it. He knows how to work to the crowd. And I don't think Ronda has learned that yet.
I don't think she ever will. She'll never go WWE. I think she's stuck in her ways. So just before we get off Logan, we move to the rest of this stuff that Hulk Hogan's come out with. Is he also suggested that he'd be a great WWE champion someday. Logan Paul, I mean, it's one thing to have good matches, practice them, and be led into having a good match when the pressure is on. I suggest it's an entirely different thing to be the face of a company, and you probably have to have some sort of like a better wrestling chops rather than having a pre-rehearsed kind of thing to be a champion.
If he's going to be the champion, he has to be the leader. He has to be the captain in the ring. He has to call the match. He has to set the tone. That I don't think he could do unless he practiced the match for, I'm agreeing with you there, unless he practiced the match for a month. Because just to call it off the top of your head, and I went there's no telling how many matches I've gone in and said, what do you want to do? And he said, I call it in the ring. You just go out there and call it. Because we've done it, or I've done it. And guys that work steady have done it. You call it on the fly sometimes. But now, not your really important matches. You work on those a little more because you want to get it right. But I don't think he could go to the ring right now and really have a match anywhere near as good as he had. And who was he? He was working with Punk then. Who was he working with?
Last one was LA Knights.
Okay.
So it was LA Knights, a tag match featuring LA Knights. Triple threat match. Then before that, Cody Rhodes. Before that, Kevin Owens and Randy Orton. A couple of triple threat matches thrown in as well. Right, we're going to move on with Hulk Hogan. Now, three more things by him. Hogan, also on the same interview, adamantly claimed that he didn't exercise his creative control clause on that night or any night in WCW. I've sort of copied this from a website, so it doesn't really make sense. In fact, Hulk Hogan insists he never took advantage of his WCW creative control clause, which would guarantee him input on creative decisions regarding his character.
I had creative control, and I never used it the whole time. But and I didn't use it this night either. But when I walked out, Scott and Kevin almost because they had no idea I was coming out, you know, and so it was kind of cool.
Here's the thing with Hulk Hogan, is that he apparently used his creative control clause all the time, including his own friends going to him and asking to have finishes changed, which he granted. Eric Bischoff himself basically pointed at Hulk Hogan, I think Kevin Nash did as well, and said, really, Hulk Hogan ran WCW because everything had to be run through him. He didn't just have creative control for his character, he had creative control in the company. I mean, there's even a meme, a trope within wrestling that is stroking the mustache and saying, that doesn't work for me, brother. Why does he just say he never exercised it? Of course he did.
No, I don't believe that at all. But see, there's a lot of guys that will do that, even if they don't have creative control. They will come up with things like, Bret Hart, say Bret Hart. No, I don't like that.
What do you think it's semantics? I'm sorry to interrupt you, Dutch. Is it semantics that he never formally submitted anything in writing saying, I exercise my creative control to change Goldberg versus me to be a televised match? That kind of thing.
I have no idea. I don't know. But I do know, and I've heard this from some of the guys, that, if you didn't like it, you didn't do it. Because he was the big star. WCW, the big star. And if he went and complained to the head bosses, well, they'd have to listen to him. He was the quarterback. He was the one they were basing those ratings on. So if he wasn't happy, nobody was happy. And I think he used that creative control. But creative control is a word they use for an official act. But say Ultimate Warrior, he used it a couple of times. And a lot of guys have used it. Just they didn't call it the creative control. They called it, well, I don't like this. And that's basically is what it is. And they would get something changed. They would even get the finish changed. Sometimes the other guy would be going over and they would change that, which was easy to do, really. And sometimes you take the path of least resistance, because you can actually put a babyface over and then bait the crap out of him at the end. You're still basically in the same spot. So you make the fans happy, and then you give them something to come back for.
So next on the agenda, he talks about Bret Hart. He said, Bret Hart hates everybody. If it's not me, it's Ric Flair, and it's Vince McMahon. He's just picked three of the most lovable, innocent people in pro wrestling history that no one could possibly have a problem with.
Yeah. So what is he saying? He hates everybody?
Yeah, but as examples, he's used Vince McMahon.
He's talking about Bret, right?
Yeah.
He hates it. Oh, yeah. Well, you listen to wrestlers, hey, if he was sitting around a table with a bunch of wrestlers there, they would hear him say that. And you know what they would get up when they would leave the table, and they would say,
geez, he's miserable.
No, they say, like, oh, God damn, does he ever shut up? That's what they'd say. They would put a little bit of stock or no stock into what he said, because I don't think Bret is different from the day he started. It's always somebody else's fault that he didn't get over, or he didn't do this, or he didn't do that. So, and if you want to do that to pin a failure on, you got a lot of choices out there. You can just pick whoever you want and go from there.
Okay, the last and most astonishing thing that he said, he's talking about mixed crowd reactions he was receiving from the WWE after he returned after a very much forced sabbatical from WWE for quite a few years over the racism storm, I believe, was exposed during the Gawker lawsuit discovery process. Anyway, when Hulk Hogan was asked about the mixed crowd reactions toward him in recent years, since his own racist tirade was revealed during the discovery phase of the Gawker trial, he said the following: if Chris Benoit can do the crap he did, and the fans still love him, why not me? They are forgiving. I have made some major mistakes. They are very, very forgiving. So, if we can all forgive Chris Benoit.
That is strong. I don't care what he said. That's just words. But what Chris Benoit did was kill 2 people and himself. So it was and I don't know who's in love with Benoit today. I've never heard of anybody, even on social media, go on and talk about how great and what a great person Benoit was. Who could say that without, I mean, somebody call you on that right off the bat. I don't think anybody is sitting around their table right now, or riding in a car right now, or listening to this podcast right now, saying, "Hey, I'm a big fan. I'm a big fan of what he did, Benoit." I don't think I don't think that person exists. So, what Hulk said is another thing that you say, "What the hell is he talking about?" If they can love him, they can love me, by God.
Well, I mean, he does live in a reality where he can live 400 days in a single year because of, he travels to Japan so much. So, I mean, he is clearly on a different plane of reality that we've known that Hulkster has lived on for a while. But let's just, so he said some things he should not have said in what he thought was in private at the very least. It's funny as well because a lot of people came out and defended him at the time who were black, which I thought was hilarious. But a lot of people weren't forgiven. That's entirely their prerogative, or they think differently about him. It's entirely their prerogative, and that's absolutely fine. So, but here's the thing with Chris Benoit. Obviously, we don't know the thought process, if there even was a thought process. We do not know what caused these trigger these the causality in all these events and that kind of thing. Whether it's partially, early onset dementia or CTE, or brain injuries and that kind of thing, if it's a combination of steroids or drugs, or if he was just a dick, or just all of these things. And to be honest, I don't even think too many people in his personal life, I know there's some people out there who are close friends, even his close friends would say he was a complete weirdo.
I met him one time in Canada. I was on a WWF show, and we was up there somewhere. I don't think we were in Canada. We were in Edmonton or somewhere. And he showed up at the arena just to meet the guys. And I met him, and he's a little short bastard. He's like 5'6", I think. I'm not real tall, but I was a lot taller than he was at the time. I've gotten shorter now. But he just looked weird. He wouldn't even come into the dressing room. He stayed outside the dressing room. I don't know if somebody told him to stay out, but he knew everybody in there. I don't know why he didn't come in. But he just affected me as he was just a little, what I call off kilter. And I walked up to him, and I just felt that from him. So, and my conversation with him was, "Hey, how you doing? Blah, blah, blah." No more than, say, 30, 40 words or whatever. And then I went on. So
personally,
he affected me then as not a goof, but he was leaning that way.
Yeah, as I say, people who even know him will say he was very kindly saying he had his idiosyncrasies, whereas a lot of people I spoke to on and off air have basically said he was pretty cruel at times. He was
pretty what? Cruel?
Yeah.
In what way?
His ribs, his treatment of certain people. It's like, as we don't know what led to that awful chain of events. So anyway, the point is that we're not really talking about Chris Benoit and that fateful weekend, of course. But
let me ask you something. Do you think? But they took his brain out after he died, right?
Mm-hmm.
Where did he shoot himself? Didn't he shoot himself in the brain?
No, he didn't shoot himself. He hung himself.
Oh, hung himself. I'm sorry. You're right.
Yeah.
So
they studied his brain and said it was like an 80-year-old Alzheimer's patient. So he definitely had CTE. So that could, but who knows how much that played into his decision making between 0 and 100%. We cannot be sure.
But by so many accounts, him being off and people just meet him, he didn't. I don't think he started at 100%.
Maybe not. I mean, apparently he completely personally went off the deep end after Eddie died. Like, he was inconsolable, and he just had a mental decline after that as well. So somewhere between inability to, there's just no easy answers. What can I say? But here's the thing: is like, doesn't mean you have to forgive the guy. And who out there is making excuses for him? You know, who has a functioning brain? There's always that odd incel on social media, or there was a video out there from Inside the Ropes and Kenny McIntosh, and they Paul Heyman was just on stage talking about whatever, and some little clown in the thing kept going, Chris Benoit, and Paul Heyman. You watched it. Paul Heyman dressed him down.
Oh, he roasted his ass, and I would have done the same thing. Shut the F up. Nobody wants to hear it, and you're out there trying to stand up, making yourself the center of attention. And I don't know what he wanted Paul to say. He was just there just to disrupt what Paul was saying, and Paul just roasted his ass. Good for Paul. I'm glad he did that.
Yeah. Now, I can do this. I don't know about you or certain other people you've wrestled or enjoy watching wrestling. Can you disassociate, and Chris Benoit's an extreme example, but can you disassociate the personal life and the professional life? Let's say for Benoit, for example, could you enjoy a Benoit match and not have it tainted by the end of his life?
A match that this is just on videotape.
Yeah. Let's just say, I don't know, something from 2002 or something like that.
I had no desire to watch him. Hell, when he was working, because it was a style that I didn't do. I respected their ability to do this, but a lot of times it's like watching some of that Japanese wrestling. Sometimes they actually wrestle too much and don't tell the story enough. That's the difference in the crowds, I guess. But if you look at say a Bruiser Brody Japan match or a Stan Hansen from Japan, they're all over the place. So it's easy to say what their style was, and the people still bought it. But if I was watching, going back to your question, I would have no desire to watch Chris Benoit in any type of match, because I can't put that out of my mind. And I would be watching and saying, what the hell am I watching this for? So then you hear like, oh, Dutch was admitted to a mental institution because of he watched a Chris Benoit match. He went off the deep end, but that can't be forgiven. And I think what Hulk said is, we're getting back to that. If they can love him now, he said, I don't know what he's basing that on. I don't know what rational thought that he thinks the people can accept Chris Benoit and they can't accept him.